Hey, what's up, my friend? Are you a small business owner that loves God, family, country, and capitalism? If so, you're in the right place. Welcome to the War Plan Briefing. My name is Josh. Super glad you're here. Today, we're going to discuss 5 ways you can eradicate fear as an entrepreneur. Now, I gotta be honest, who I am today is not who I was yesterday or last year, or certainly not 15 or 20 years ago. Hopefully the same thing is true for you. In fact, when I first got into business, I remember sitting in my trailer with my high school sweetheart, who was then my wife, in our trailer park, stressing out, pulling my hair out of my head, trying to reverse engineer a strategy for me to replace my $500 a week income that I was making delivering pizzas. And I remember it felt like the weight of the world and how freaked out I was to go try and attain that outcome because I didn't understand the how. I kind of had figured out the what. And when I say that, I mean the what was I wanted freedom. I wanted independence. I didn't want a boss. I knew a lot of the things I didn't want. I knew a little bit about what I did want. But I didn't know how to do it. And so I'm reverse engineering. There was papers all over our coffee table. I'm sitting on the floor trying to figure out how do I get 4 customers to pay me $125 each every single week so I can replace my pizza delivery driving income. And it's funny looking back on it now, but it's also not that funny because I remember what it felt like being like that. Fear is the core thing that paralyzes people from getting the result that they want. It's not your intelligence. It's not your family bloodline. It's not any of that stuff, your location, the industry you're in. All these external things aren't really true. It's the internal war that's happening in our head. So what do we do about it? Well, we have to murder fear. Here's the deal. The first thing that I want to encourage you to do is to take action, which maybe you're thinking, yes, I've heard that before, but did you know this? Did you know that action itself creates clarity? Action is what creates the clarity. What people do is they sit around waiting for clarity so that then they can take action, when the truth is as you take the action, the clarity is created kind of while you're in motion, right? It's funny, the Bible talks about how God's word is a lamp unto our feet. A lamp. Think about this. It's a lamp into our feet. Lamp, okay? A lamp, that it's not a 10 billion watt, spotlight. You can't see 5 miles ahead. You can see like 12 feet ahead or 6 feet ahead. And the only way you can see more of the next steps is by walking and moving. As you carry the lamp around, more of the map reveals itself, kind of like a video game when the whole map is covered with like a fog and your character, like as you move, some of the map uncovers as you go, right? That's what life is like. That's what business is like. Sometimes you're not allowed to know the next step until you take action on this step. You can't know, scene 32 when you haven't executed scene 4, right? So take action. It creates massive clarity. It's never going to be perfect because being perfect is an impossible thing to strive to attain anyway, but get back in momentum. And another good thing to remember when taking action is that emotion follows motion. This is a Tony Robbins-ism, right? Is that emotion follows motion. What does that mean? What it means is that when you get in motion, when you take action, new feelings are created inside your body, right? Energy, enthusiasm, momentum, inspiration, whatever. But those feelings only happen after the motion. Right? So we're chasing a feeling. Humans typically wait to feel a certain way so that then they go do stuff. When the right way to play the game is the opposite of that. You do stuff, which then creates the feeling, which makes it easier to keep doing the stuff. Kind of like a flywheel. It's hard to get it going, but once it's going, right? And it takes a little bit of effort to keep the thing spinning, but it takes a lot of effort to get it going. So what areas do you need to take action in right now that you already know are valid, true? There's no reason to wait. You have enough information to do the next thing, but you're just not doing it. Let's start with that. The second way to eradicate fear as an entrepreneur is to use logic. Yeah, that's right. Logic. Look, all humans operate on emotion. You've heard the saying that people buy an emotion, they justify with logic. Well, it's even deeper than that. Even totally logical people, scientists and PhDs that think that they operate entirely on logic, almost everything they do in their life is actually driven still by emotion. Emotion is really important. It's part of human nature. But when you're in fear, let's take a pause and ask ourselves logically, how scary is the big scary monster? What is the worst thing that's actually going to happen to you from this action you're about to take? Are you supposed to make a Facebook Live video? Are you supposed to send out a couple thousand direct mail pieces? Are you supposed to hire your first employee? Whatever thing is causing you fear, let's put on our logic hat together and we'll put our logic hat on and we'll ask ourselves, is this logically rational that I should be scared of it? Or should I be scared at this level of scared of it, right? Because a lot of times the big scary monster has no teeth. The big scary monster isn't that scary to begin with. And you already know this is true because this has already happened to you before. It's going to be the same thing this time. If you hire the employee and you do everything wrong, not that big of a deal. Even in the worst case scenario, like you will weather the storm, you will survive, and you'll come out smarter and you'll be better at your next hire. So ask yourself, how scary is the big scary monster? What's the worst that can happen from me doing this? And then last but not least, when you're using logic, ask yourself, is this true? A lot of times the fear that we have comes from a false belief. I was at a workshop last week, and one of the guys in the crowd, he said that he's having trouble with this pressure to compare himself to other people. And these people are all in this high-ticket program for a friend of mine, and they pay a bunch of money, and they're all a bunch of fancy overachievers. And he's like, I have all this pressure to live up to the expectations of all these other people. And I asked him, I said, like, is that feeling, is it true that you're supposed to live up to the expectations of other people? And he said, well, I'm Polish, which I thought was random, but I said, okay, what does that mean? He said, well, Polish people are very competitive. I said, cool, fair enough. So you're supposed to be competitive because you're Polish, but is it good? Is it true that you should be like growing your business, comparing yourself to other people? Is that logically true? And he said, I don't know. And we started to kind of work it out and have a dialogue about it because comparison, just as a sidebar conversation, is totally irrational most of the time because you're not comparing apples to apples ever, right? You don't have the staff they have, you don't have the background they have, you might not be the same age with the same amount of capital, you might not sell the same services, you don't have full contextual understanding. You might be comparing yourself to someone that you think is making a bunch of revenue, but they make no profit. You might be further ahead than some of the people you look up to. You don't know, you couldn't know, you shouldn't know, and you don't need to know. So when you're using logic to overcome fear, you have to ask yourself, is this belief that I have that if I go live on Facebook, I'm going to get a hater? Or if I hire this employee, he's going to steal from me, or he's going to take all my business, or I'm going to train him and he's going to start his own business. Is this true? Is this fearful belief that I have even true, like at all? And use logic to do it because you have the capacity to use reason and logic to make decisions, but we get so worked up, sometimes we forget. The third way to eradicate fear as an entrepreneur is to change your network. Look, you are what you eat, right? Birds of a feather flock together, right? Jim Rohn famously said that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Who are those for you? And let me ask you this, would you be as scared of the next step as you are right now if you were surrounded every day by people who were way past that current step that you're scared about? The answer is no. Do you think it's stressful for the daughter or son of Mark Zuckerberg to be like, I just don't know how I'm going to get money for groceries next week? Do you think they think that thought? And I'm not saying he's good or bad. Well, actually, he's bad. But that's not the point. The point is because this child is raised around super wealth, their frame is different. The same is true for you. The people that are around you doing other things or similar things, hopefully things that are bigger and more further ahead than you, it affects you. It affects you like a lot. You know, if you think humans are walking radio transmission towers of like energy and fears and belief, good belief, right? And vision and just there's good ones, there's bad ones, and the people around you are affecting the way that you feel. They're affecting how you interpret fear. The thing that you're scared of isn't scary to somebody else. And if you're around a whole bunch of those somebody else's who it's not scary for, it will rub off on you. So if you're a lone wolf and you're not even participating in mastermind groups or networks or trade associations or whatever with people specifically ahead of you, people that you aspire to become like, it's going to take you so much longer to get there because look, you're going to conquer this fear monster, but it might take you 11 months instead of 11 days. It might take you 36 months instead of 3 months. And a network can help collapse time for you, can help go faster, not because they give you magical unicorn fairy dust advice, not because they have the secret code that's been missing. No, it's that being in their very presence changes your belief. It builds confidence in you because you get to borrow their certainty. You get to borrow their confidence. And if you haven't paid to be in any of these groups, consider doing that. Stop being scared of doing that because it could change your life for the rest of your life. The fourth way to eradicate fear as an entrepreneur is to hold yourself accountable and to desperately and quickly seek out more accountability in your life. There's one thing that's true about entrepreneurs. It's that we're kind of rebellious by nature. We don't want people to be the boss of us, right? I would be working with my business partner, Chris Phillips, in one of our old companies. And I'd be like, hey, hand me that thing real quick. And he'd go, you're not the boss of me. And I'd be like, hey, Chris, will you grab the mail and bring it in my office? You're not the boss of me. It's like a joke. We would joke about that. But entrepreneurs don't want people to be the boss of me, right? That is a death sentence in a way, right? Because we lack accountability. When you're the boss and you don't have to do anything, especially if you're actually successful enough where there's no financial pressure, like you're okay, plus you don't have a boss, plus you don't have accountability, you're just going to flounder a lot of times. So how do you hold yourself accountable? Well, there's lots of different ways. Number one, you can get into an accountability group. My friend Bart Miller runs an accountability group. People pay, it's a small fee per month. It's called I Do Epic Accountability, just as a shout out to him. And they pay and they have these daily 10-minute calls to just hold each other accountable. Did you do what you said you're going to do yesterday? Yes or no? You didn't? Okay, that's bad. Are you going to do it today? You are? Okay, hey, we heard you. Did everybody hear him? He said he's going to do it today. And then the next day, and so on. Another way you can hold yourself accountable is to call your shot publicly. You know, last year I lost 35 pounds in a weight loss challenge for myself. The way I did it is I went live on Facebook and I said, if I don't lose 35 pounds by August 8th, this was last year, then I will donate $25,000 to Joe Biden's reelection campaign. Of course, it got tons of comments, and my wife called me and said, what's wrong with you? Why are you the way that you are? And I just told her I'm built different, babe. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know. So you don't have to do that, but calling your shot publicly is very powerful, right? Because now you're kind of trapped. You're kind of stuck. Are you going to look stupid? Are you going to be a liar? It's easy to be a liar to yourself. It's easy to let yourself down because you'll forgive yourself. But what if you called your shot to your staff on some sort of topic? It doesn't have to be weight loss. It could be a revenue goal. It could be some marketing thing you're going to do. It could be hiring some new leaders inside your company by a certain date. It could be your peers. It could be your spouse. It could be your kids. It could be whatever makes sense for you. But accountability can be a way to get you past the fear. And the fifth way to eradicate fear as an entrepreneur, last but not least, is to focus on the gain instead of the gap. There's a book by Dr. Benjamin Hardy, and I've actually just kind of been introduced to him. He spoke at an event I was at in Cancun with my wife, and we got a couple of his books. And one of the books is called The Gap and the Gain. And it's really interesting. So I haven't read the whole book, but the premise is pretty simple and powerful. And I can explain it briefly. You know, people that are perfectionists, which maybe that's you. Is that you? Look in my good eye. Are you a perfectionist? Stop it. Knock it off. Stop it. Okay. Look, sometimes people that are perfectionists get paralyzed more than anybody else at all. And the reason that they do what they do is because they can never acknowledge the good that they've already done. They can only focus on the gap that's before them from between, you know, where they are now and the perfection that's impossible. And we're always looking at the impossible perfection thing, constantly depressed, constantly trying to close the gap. I even heard from my wife this weekend, because she's listening to this audiobook right now, that, you know, I won't say isn't there like when you unalive yourself, we'll say. The word we use for unaliving yourself, I don't think YouTube likes that word very much. That word, people that do that more than other groups are people that are perfectionists or high achievers. Did you know that? Like doctors and certain industries have really high unalive themselves statistics because they're always focused on the gap, what they could be, you know, how much more they could have done. You know, and if you're paralyzed by fear in your business, it could be because you don't want to launch anything. You don't want to take action at all unless you feel that you've covered all the bases, that is perfect. Well, the reality is it couldn't be perfect. And I think you know that intellectually, but you still get paralyzed by fear. We need to murder your perfectionism. We need to kill it. We need to crucify it. We need to sacrifice it on the altar of reality and move on, because you're not allowed to be great and world class at something unless you're willing to be bad at it at first. You know, a little bit of this is ego and pride, to be honest. When people say, oh, I'm just scared. Oh, I just got to refine it a little more. It's not just that they're scared. It's that they're arrogant, actually. So in love, I'm asking you to ask yourself, is there a little bit of ego pride here? Because you might release something, or you might make a hire and make a mistake. Because guess what? You could. The smartest people in the world still do. There is no such thing as perfectionism. It's not a real thing. So knock it off. Deal in reality. Quit making excuses. and murder your perfectionism, and maybe buy Ben Hardy's book, The Gap and the Gain. It's really good from everything I've heard. I just started it. My wife is in it. She's loving it. But that's it. Hey, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you investing your precious, valuable time, and I hope this is valuable for you. We're going to keep moving the train on YouTube. We have some really cool new initiatives we're starting to sketch out, and cool things we're going to try to do to add value to you, not just as an entrepreneur, but specifically with marketing and ways to make more money with your brain, and the way I'm going to break down certain there's things that I know in my brain that can make you so much money, and I'm going to bring them to you here. I'm super excited. If you haven't yet, go to warplan.com and you can get a free course, really. It's a whole resource called the Atomic Marketing Playbook. It's totally for free. It's at warplan.com. Isn't that a cool domain name, by the way? I'm super happy I got to secure that domain name. And it's free. Put your email in. I'll email you a link to 10 different videos, an entire PDF with a bunch of notes breaking down noise, nuance, offers, and how any type of business, local, international, online, doesn't matter, can make more money by using their brain, thinking asymmetrically. I think you're really going to like it. Until next time, see you in the next video. Bye.